March 1943, Sweetwater, Texas. Betty Blake stood in front of a P-51 Mustang, the fastest, deadliest fighter plane in the American arsenal. Her instructor looked at her and said, "You'll fly this to New York. Don't crash, we need it for the war." Betty nodded, climbed into the cockpit, and started the Rolls-Royce Merlin engine. She'd soloed for the first time 6 months earlier. Now she was about to fly a fighter plane across the United States. Alone, at 23 years old, because America needed pilots and the men were all overseas fighting. The Women Airforce Service Pilots, the WASPs, were formed in 1943 when the Army Air Forces realized they had a problem. They had thousands of aircraft rolling off assembly lines in California, Texas, and Michigan, but they didn't have enough pilots to deliver those planes to military bases across the country. Bomber pilots couldn't be spared from combat to ferry planes. Someone had to do it. Why not women? The idea was controversial. Women couldn't fly combat missions. Everyone knew that. Too emotional, not strong enough, couldn't handle the pressure, but ferrying planes from factories to bases, that didn't count as combat. It was just transportation. How hard could it be? Turns out it was one of the most dangerous jobs in the war. WASP pilots flew every aircraft the Army had: P-51 Mustangs, P-47 Thunderbolts, B-17 Flying Fortresses, B-29 Superfortresses, even experimental jets that sometimes exploded on takeoff. They flew in all weather, often without radios, sometimes without maps. They flew damaged aircraft from crash sites to repair depots. They towed targets for anti-aircraft gunners to shoot at. They test flew repaired bombers to make sure the mechanics hadn't missed anything critical. 38 WASP pilots died during the war. 38 women killed flying for their country, and when they died, their bodies were shipped home in plain boxes, without military honors, without flags on their coffins, without benefits for their families. Because officially, the WASPs weren't military. They were civilian contractors, which meant when they died forgotten. Betty Blake flew over 200 missions during the war. She delivered P-51s, Corsairs, B-25 bombers, everything the Army needed moved. She flew through thunderstorms, ice storms, and mechanical failures. She crash-landed once in Tennessee when an engine quit, walked away, hitched a ride to the nearest base, and was flying again the next day. When the war ended in 1945, the WASP program was disbanded. The women went home. Most never flew again. For 32 years, the United States government refused to recognize the WASPs as veterans. They got no benefits, no honors, no recognition. In 1977, Congress finally granted them veteran status. In 2009, they received the Congressional Gold Medal. Betty Blake was there to accept it, 77 years old, one of fewer than 300 surviving WASPs. When they asked her why she flew, why she risked her life for a country that didn't recognize her service, she said, "Because it needed doing, and I could do it." The WASPs flew 60 million miles during World War II. They delivered 12,650 aircraft. They proved that women could fly anything men could fly, and sometimes fly it better. And for decades, nobody knew their names. If you didn't know about the WASPs before this video, now you do. Subscribe to this channel so you don't miss the next forgotten story. Comment below and tell me, why don't more people know about these women? Share this video, make sure everyone knows. See you next time.